tell me your name and what you're doing here at Battle Arena Melbourne?
Yeah, my name is Mick Gordon, and I wrote all the music in Killer Instinct.
Oh, man, freaking, I love the original Killer Instinct. Like, I played it on the Super Nintendo myself, and I didn't play it too much, but the soundtrack was just so good. And the Xbox One, when I heard Killer Instinct was coming out on that, I was just, all the characters just look amazing. And then the music, like, tell me, what was it like working on Killer Instinct?
Oh man, it was just it's a mind-blowing experience. Really, I mean, like you, I was playing Killer Instinct back when I was a kid, right? I grew up in a small town in central Queensland, and there was a pub in this small town, right? And in this pub, they had one arcade machine, one. It happened to be Killer Instinct. This is back in the 90s, right? So I used to play that machine like crazy, but I was kind of a little kid, right? And I used to get beat up by all the bullies in town, and be there like halfway through, your arcade thing, right? And then somebody else would come along and put $1 in, and then you'd have to play against them. They beat you, and you'd have to walk away. So those are my memories. No, not really. But my again, like you, my memories of Killer Instinct is the soundtrack. That music was just incredible, right? It blew me away back then. I used to love listening to Killer Cuts. I once brought a girl home, right? And I put some music on. Do you know what I put on? I put Killer Cuts on.
Nice.
I'm not even joking. Do you know how good that music was?
It's freaking amazing.
I'm now married to that girl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That was... Good
so
stuff.
Killer Instinct is a deeper pleasure, I guess, So getting a chance to come on for Killer Instinct for the Xbox One was just, it's an incredible experience, right? When you jump onto that thing, you're filled with utter elation. But at the same time, you've got that just burning feeling of complete terror as well.
So you're, was it a bit difficult, like trying to redo the amazing music that the Super Nintendo had on Xbox One?
Of course it was, man, absolutely. I mean, you've got such a huge pedigree up there, right? And not only that, but fans have had 20 years, had almost 20 years to listening to Killer Cuts. So when Xbox One's Killer Instinct came out, it had to really hit people over the head, it had to kind of meet that expectation. So, of course, jumping onto it was a huge challenge. When we started, we had about 7 months of kind of research time. We were working with Jago. And man, the first demos and things that I put together were terrible. Absolutely terrible. Like, I listen to them now and I'm embarrassed. It's that bad. Because when you start a project, you have no idea where you're going to start, right? You don't know where it's going to go from. You don't know where you end up. And I remember sitting down with the team one day and we said, look, what's the main thing about Killer Instinct? What is it? And Mike Willett, the producer, said it has to be badass. Just make everything badass. And once we hit that word, that single word or 2 words, that was what really, I think, put the soundtrack together. Yeah.
Wait, so the Ultra combos, like whenever you do those, you have the musical strings for that.
Yeah.
Like, was that you? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, that was a interesting idea that came from Jed, the senior sound designer on Killer Instinct. And we were looking at different games that had come out recently, and one was Rayman. And Rayman had those really interesting musical levels. Where you're kind of jumping along the platforming thing, and the visuals are really matching the music. It's all kind of music. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we had this idea of, well, let's make the Ultras kind of musical. Because essentially the entire game, you've got sound effect, sound effect, sound effect, music, 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 and they're playing their roles. Well, the Ultra combo, you want to do something different. You want to do something exciting, something different, something that sets it aside from the rest of the game. So Jed came up with this idea of, well, why not have each punch and kick relate to a musical note? So it kind of flowed on from there. We tried some different prototypes. They were terrible, and we tried to work at it. We worked at it a bit more, and then got it to somewhere where people were kind of happy with. So, yeah, I'm glad you noticed though, man. That's cool.
Not a problem. So, like, when you're developing this music, and the first time it doesn't work, and then that next few times, and you finally get it, do you, like, stop right there, or do you go, like, can I do something better than this?
I think like any creative profession, it is never done. It is never done. You work on it solidly, and then somebody comes along and takes it away from you. That's how it works, right? So, Jago, we did about 7 months worth, all sorts of different demos, all sorts of different sounds, different trials, things that were like 90s arcade music, things that were like, more dance-orientated, things that were modern for the time, and so all sorts of different things. And then once you hit that Jago sound that everybody was happy with, the challenge becomes, when do you lock it off? And honestly, that's not me. I can keep working on something right until it's shipping out the door, and even then I'm not happy with it. So yeah, it's constant, man, all the time.
Got you. So Orchid's theme, like, I loved Orchid so much back in playing in the arcade, just hearing it was amazing. When you redid that to Killer Instinct, like, what was it like going from doing that transition?
Orchid's an interesting one. That one from the beginning, when I first got the job, so when they said, yes, we want you to write music for Killer Instinct, the first character that popped into my mind was, what on earth am I going to do for Orchid, right? Because it was just like a pop song from the 90s. It was just something that was really groovy, and it was like a blue light disco song, and it was like something you could hear on the radio. So it was clear that Orchid's new track had to be like something you would hear on the radio. But there was things that we wanted to change about it too. As much as I love the music that Robin Beanland and Graham Norgate put together for the first Killer Instinct, we didn't want to take that over-sexualization approach with Orchid, especially with the music. And I remember one day we were sitting down trying to define what was going to be the direction. And we looked at the original theme, and it had a line in there that says, touch me, feel me. And I said, well, we don't want that anymore. Now we want touch me and I'll break your face. And once we hit that line, it was great, and the track kind of wrote itself. Being male, I didn't feel comfortable writing the lyrics, so I got Ali Edwards, who's this amazing singer, and she wrote all the lyrics, and she sung and performed the part as well. So that's all her work, that's her expression, that's how she feels. And I think, I'm glad you liked it anyway, man. Cheers.
Oh yeah, definitely. Out of all the themes for the different characters, which would you say was the most difficult for you to do?
That's a really tough question. I would say probably the one that we had most iterations on was Sadira.
Right.
And it's weird because I guess the trouble we ran into was because every other character had a prerequisite story that went with them. Everybody knew there was going to be Jago and his rough story. Everybody knew there was going to be Iglesias and his rough story. But this Sadira thing was this big question mark right from the beginning. So we went time and time again with so many different iterations of trying things. It's based in Thailand, so we had like this sort of Thai thing going at one point that sounded terrible. And then there was like spiders everywhere, so we like tried this horror thing and that didn't work, that sounded terrible. And then I remember this girl I went to school with, and she was obsessed with spiders, right? She loved Marilyn Manson, and she was a goth, and she used to dress with all the kind of, black eye makeup and all that cool stuff. And I went, well, to me, Sadira is her. I'm imagining her as Sadira, hanging out in this spider cave, listening to, Marilyn Manson all day. So that's kind of how that theme came about. So that was probably the most difficult.
Got you. How are you enjoying Battle Arena Melbourne?
This is incredible, man. It is amazing. As I was just saying to some guys, like, we do this game, we set it out, and we put it out into the world, and then seeing how people adopt the game and make it their own through a whole different level of passion is mind-blowing. And here at Battle Arena Melbourne is a perfect example of that. We have guys here that are playing and pulling off combos that are just blowing my mind. I can't wait for the finals tonight. It's going to be incredible.
Got you. Are you working on Season 2 of Killer Instinct?
Season 2 is something I can't talk about at this stage. I had such a wonderful time working on Season 1. I'd really like to continue.
Got you. What was it like doing Fulgore? That was the newest character, right?
Yeah, Fulgore was great. Fulgore was one. So before, when I had this giant question mark over Orchid being the first character that I thought of, right? Yeah. Then Fulgore was definitely number 2. Straight away it was like, well, Fulgore's got to be some big metal thing, right? It has to be, right? It has to be some new big heavy thing. So Fulgore was the last character that we'd done. So it was character number 8. And every other single character had a relatively slow theme, what we might call musically slow. So Thunder has that dun, 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 dun. It's quite slow. Jago's is kind of slow. They all have these slow grooves, right? So Fulgore, to make Fulgore stand out, it was clear that we needed something different. So Fulgore, we said, well, what's more different than 16th notes at 200 beats per minute, double kick drums, lots of double picking and all that sort of stuff. So that was Fulgore. Fulgore we did very quickly. Did Fulgore in about 5 days. It was all done, big drum kits, big bass, big guitars, big synths. Yeah, it was good fun, man. Yeah.
Actually, so no problems with Fulgore?
In terms of, creative direction. No, Fulgore was the first one. The first style that we put together was the one that was accepted for Fulgore. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good. So how about playing the game? Do you play Killer Instinct?
I try to play Killer Instinct. It's weird, when Killer Instinct first came out, I was awesome. Because I'd been playing it for like 6 months, right? Yeah. And in like the first few hours after it launched, I was like, number 12 in the world. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to quit music, man. I'm going to play Killer Instinct forever. But no, within like 24 hours, the rate at which the fighting game community picked up the game and learnt every little itsy-bitsy piece about it is just incredible, really. It just blew our minds. So now, man, I can't even pick up the game. I get my ass kicked. It's crazy.
Fair enough. What's your favorite character to use?
My favorite, I'm a Jago player. Call me standard. I'm a Jago player. I think Jago's really well-rounded. I think he's got a lot of really interesting mix-ups that he can perform, and he kind of performs quite well with different characters. He's a tough match against Fulgore. He's a tough match against Sadira. Everybody's a tough match against Sadira. But yeah, I'd say a Jago player.
Would you say any of the characters are a bit more powerful than the others?
Also, OP stuff. You're going to do me those questions? I don't know, man.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's interesting. When Killer Instinct first started hitting the tournament scene, everybody was playing as Saberwolf. It was Saberwolf, 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 right? And now, as people have had a little bit of time to sink into the players, the different characters, you're starting to see really interesting performances from different people. I mean, you're seeing some great stuff with Spinal, some amazing stuff with Fulgore, some amazing Glacius players. I mean, Glacius was that character that was such a risk for the studio. He's such a different character. And there's now there's players out there that are just killing the scene with Glacius, man. Filthy Rich is a great, incredible Glacius player, right? So, I mean, I don't know. It's hard. Like, you might take one character you think is very overpowered and then put it up against somebody else, and I don't know. It's a pretty well-balanced game, I'll admit. Maybe I'm biased, but who knows?
Could you tell us anything about Wolfenstein?
Yeah, sure, man. So Wolfenstein's coming out on May 20th for Xbox One, PS4, PS3, Xbox 360, and PC. It's crazy. Like, I mean, you know, like Killer Instinct, right? You and I were playing Killer Instinct so much when we were younger.
Yeah.
Wolfenstein was another game I was playing so much when I was younger. If we didn't have Wolfenstein, we wouldn't have our Call of Duties. We wouldn't have our Battlefields, right? It defined what a modern first-person shooter, what a modern action game could be. So to get a chance to kind of delve into that universe was just incredible. So Wolfenstein, there's stacks of music. It's about 6 hours of music in it. It's about 20 hours long. I can't wait for people to get their hands on it, man. It's going to be cool.
All right. Do you have any advice for other people trying to get into the industry doing the same thing you do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a tough thing to get into, of course. There's essentially no job queue that you can go join to kind of do this sort of thing. But essentially, it's all about passion. If you really, really, really want to do something, you'll find a way to do it. How good you are at something, how successful you are at something, whatever that may be, is directly related to how much time and energy and passion you're willing to put into that thing. If you're passionate about something, you'll find your way. Absolutely.
Good stuff. How did you start out yourself?
Yeah, I started about 10 years ago, and I started here in Australia. There was a small studio in Brisbane, and I heard that they had a game going, and I'd been writing music for a couple of weeks and all that sort of thing. I've been doing music for a long time, but only like making music for a few weeks. And I went and met the guys, and I gave them some of my stuff, and they hated it, absolutely hated it. So I was all distraught and crying and upset and all that sort of thing. But instead of like getting really down about it, I took another shot, and that second shot allowed me to get the gig, and I got the job and started like that. From there, I went and worked at Pandemic Studios and Destroy Humans, and the Destroy Humans franchise. And then once I finished up at Pandemic, I kind of went into the freelance world. I started traveling all over the world and visiting different conferences and meeting different people. I ended up working with EA on a whole bunch of things, from trailers for Crisis and Army of Two and Medal of Honor and things, to a lot of Need for Speed games. I did about 4 or 5 Need for Speed games. And just kind of evolved from there, so yeah.
Got you. So you played Killer Instinct and Wolfenstein, like growing up. Would you say that passion is what helped you get the job to work on those games?
Well, I think passion gets us through anything, really. I mean, you've got to look at what we're dealing with this moment. I mean, people of our generation, right, our age, are dealing with a really strange economy around the world. And it's bizarre when you have governments talking about retirement, right? I don't know about everybody else, but I'm not even thinking about retirement. I don't think our generation, man, is ever going to retire, right? I don't think it's going to happen. So instead, your life, this one life that you have to spend it doing something that you enjoy, no matter what that is, whether that's music or whether that's doing something else. You have to do it, spending it, because you're going to do it, and you get one chance. That's it. That one thing. So of course, man, you have to be passionate.
All right, I hear you. I have one last question for you. What is your favorite type of cake?
Oh, interesting. I'd go cheesecake, man. Lemon cheesecake for sure, without a doubt.
Ah, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Dude, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, man. It's my pleasure too. Yeah, thank you.